Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum and the overvaluation reaccumulation phase of a lifetime. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Now you're probably wondering, what is this guy thinking? Like, what does he mean, overvaluation reaccumulation? Probably a lot of people who watch the channel long enough probably have an idea of what I mean. In general, when we talk about overvaluation, it does not mean it in the strictest sense that I think that Ethereum is overvalued or undervalued in any way, shape, or form at any specific level, but it's simply looking at our fair value fit of the Ethereum regression band fit to quote unquote non-bubble data. Okay, that's all it is. If you've watched this channel long enough, you're probably well versed in the accumulation phase of a lifetime video over here, the reaccumulation phase of a lifetime video over here, and the extensive discussion over here where we said there most likely is a valuation shift coming for the Ether Bitcoin valuation starting in January. So far, so good, right? Things seem to be going more or less the way we had hoped they would. Obviously, not everyone hopes that Ethereum loses value against Bitcoin in Q4, but it's what the data suggested would happen, so at least we were prepared for it, okay? That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should have traded all their Ether for Bitcoin at this point, because it's not like it was guaranteed to happen. But at least when it did happen, we were prepared for it, and we knew, okay, this is normal. The Ether USD valuation is still trending up, and whenever Bitcoin volatility calms down, we would expect Ethereum to then pick up, right? To then start moving again. Now, why am I calling it an overvaluation reaccumulation phase rather than just say a reaccumulation phase? Or at this point, it would be the reaccumulation phase or something, or just reaccumulation phase. Well, the reason is because I cannot in good faith say that this is an accumulation phase of a lifetime when that's what this was, okay? We're looking at essentially a 10x from the accumulation phase of a lifetime video in July. So there's no way I can in good faith say that buying Ethereum at the current prices when it's up 10x from the accumulation phase of a lifetime video, that this would be known as an accumulation phase of a lifetime. The accumulation phase of a lifetime was over here because the people that bought over here are already at 10x. What we're talking about now also cannot be, say, the reaccumulation phase of a lifetime where it dipped back down into the regression band, giving us yet another opportunity. We can't say that either because we're nowhere near the regression band. Now, before we continue, let me remind you, the regression band, just because the fair value right now says it's 316 or 317, we may never go back to anywhere close to those levels. And if you don't know what I mean, let me show you. If you look over here, we left our fair value at $1.17, okay? And then over here, when we hit this local top, the fair value was $2 or so. Okay, the fair value was $2, despite the fact that we've reached a valuation of $15. We never went back to $2. By the time we actually went back to the fair value band, the fair value at the time was $8, which was 4 times what it was when we left it. We left it over here at $12. By the time we hit a peak, the fair value was around $37 or $38 or so, or $35 or $36 or so. But we did not come back into it until $82, which ultimately represented essentially an 8x from when we left it. Okay, so just because the fair value, according to this curve, might say that it's $300, by the time we ever re-enter this band could be way higher than it currently is. I mean, it could be $1,000, it could be $2,000. We really don't know where it will re-enter our regression band. It'll probably enter at some point in the future, but it might not enter it anytime soon. The time between when we left it here and when we revisited it over here was 92 weeks. We were pushing 2 years. So imagine if it took 2 years. This one over here, from when we left it to when we more or less entered, was a little less than a year, or 41 weeks. So we could be out of this regression band for a couple years potentially. Here, we're only so far out of it for 15 weeks. Or, I mean, we've barely even left it, one could argue. I mean, we left it in October, which was not that many months ago. So we have to take that into consideration when discussing this, is that when I say the fair value is $319, I do not mean that it will ever go anywhere close to $300 again. I would honestly doubt that it ever gets anywhere close to that level at this point, right? I don't see us going there anytime soon. So again, that brings us to the title of the video, the overvaluation reaccumulation phase of a lifetime. Why do I call it that? Well, basically, it's the same idea as December. Okay, we know that Bitcoin was bleeding against, or Ethereum was bleeding against Bitcoin in December, and everyone was super bummed out because Ethereum was trending up against USD. In fact, Ethereum moved up like 2x in December. It might not feel like it, and you might be wondering what I'm smoking to say something like that because you remember December as a bearish month. But my friends, if we go back and look at the data and go to the November, why don't I just switch it to daily data so I can actually get December 1st, okay? Let's be pragmatic here. Let's go to December 1st, right here. The price was 562. By the end of December, let's go to the end of December, where was it? It was 754. So I guess not quite a 2x, maybe about 50%. So it was not 2x, it was more like 50%. If you take it from say November, say November 25th, it was all the way down to 488, and then just days after December ended, it skyrocketed up to 1344. So this was a 174% move. So Ethereum actually had a fairly decent December. Okay, it wasn't 2x, but it was a fairly decent December, even if our minds have tricked us into thinking that it did not do well. The reason we think that is because, against Bitcoin, it was dropping like a rock. And then January came, and then everything changed, and then everyone was excited, everyone was exuberant. Ethereum was going on a rampage that couldn't be stopped until it could, and then back down. And now we find ourselves in a very similar position. ETHUSD is trending up. So theoretically, if you didn't know that Bitcoin existed and all you looked at was, say, the Ethereum USD valuation, it would be hard to be upset about something like this. If we go look at the first day of February, here, let's even go to the bottom of the wick up to where we currently are. Again, a fairly similar move. We're up 50% or so, which is essentially what we saw in December. However, a lot of people are bearish on it because it's trending down against Bitcoin. We expect this. As long as Bitcoin remains in price discovery mode, there's going to be on any given day, Ethereum can have a nice surge like it just had over 2K, but it will more than likely trend down against Bitcoin. What we're waiting for, as always, and this has not changed, it's not financial advice, is Bitcoin volatility to calm down, okay? Sometimes people criticize for saying, why don't you come up with, why don't you say other things besides the same stuff? Sometimes making money can be boring. It doesn't always have to be flashy. It just is the data, and we go with what the data says. We need Bitcoin volatility to calm down. Once it does, I think there's a decent chance that Ethereum will shine. Now, why do I call it the reaccumulation or the overvaluation reaccumulation phase? Well, again, if we look at our fair value, which is all the way down here, we cannot just simply call it an accumulation phase of a lifetime. That was over here, and it would be doing a disservice to also call it the same thing up here, right? You can't have an accumulation phase of a lifetime 11 months after having one at a valuation that was, 1/10 of the current valuation. It just doesn't make sense. But why say it's an accumulation phase? Well, the reason I think it's an accumulation phase is because Bitcoin volatility has gone up, but the price of Bitcoin has not gone down. Bitcoin price is going up. And we've seen this before. Whenever volatility stops, we would expect Ethereum to make a move. It can actually come after Bitcoin has a correction, okay? So one thing that people might think, Suppose you wake up one day and Bitcoin's down 15%, Ethereum could be down 20%, and you're like, what's going on? Like, I thought this was going to be an accumulation phase. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times it takes that definitive correction to show that Bitcoin's going to calm down for a little bit, for at least a few weeks, and then other coins can make their moves. Remember, if we go to back over here, in January, that was when Ethereum was doing so well and the Ether Bitcoin valuation was skyrocketing. At the same time, Bitcoin was undergoing a pretty nice correction back down. In fact, to the bottom of the wick, it corrected 30% or more, but it did not stop the Ethereum valuation against USD from trending up in January. So what I would say is if there's a definitive correction in the price of Bitcoin, it does not mean that Ethereum cannot surge after it. We just don't want Bitcoin to correct to the 20-week moving average, which still is a long ways off. As long as we don't correct to that, and as long as it's a slow bleed with periodic bounces back up, Ethereum can still shine. We did not definitively have to have a correction for Ethereum to make a move. If Bitcoin were to just move sideways for a few days, Ethereum could likely break out. But a correction does not necessarily mean that the breakout can't happen. Now, so is it only an accumulation phase because of Bitcoin? I would argue not. Okay, I would argue that that's not the only reason. We can look to other examples as well, and we've looked at these examples in the past. So I don't think we are near a market cycle top by any means. I do not. I do think sometime in the next few weeks, I don't know how long, we could have a decent correction. It might not be in February. It might not even be in March, but there's a decent chance it's in March. But if the market stays like this, we're going to have a lot of altcoins, already are, that are basically making life-changing money for people. Okay? ADA is one. You guys know it's my primary hedge against Ethereum. DOT is another. Link is another. There's other coins too. I mean, those are the main ones we follow. There's other coins too that are doing quite well. People are making life-changing money. They're probably going to be looking to take profits on it, but people are greedy, right? People are greedy. A lot of times they don't want to necessarily take it to fiat because they have that fear of missing out on the crypto market. So where do they take it? Well, you could take it to Bitcoin, which arguably would be a decent decision if you don't own a lot of Bitcoin and you want to increase your exposure. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, even though Bitcoin is very heated right now itself. I've often contended, though, that if I didn't own Bitcoin, I would still be DCAing it because I've said before, it's too risky not to hold. No matter what model anyone comes up with saying it's overheated, for the grand scheme of a market cycle or for, say, the sake of the decade, Bitcoin is too risky not to hold. Therefore, you could argue people should take it to Bitcoin. But a lot of people won't do this. Why? Because they don't consider Bitcoin to be something they can see a nice ROI on. They think about they have to go with altcoins. But if they've made life-changing money on an altcoin, maybe they want to take the risk somewhere else that's safer. And that's where Ethereum comes in. That's where Ethereum is waiting as a vehicle to maybe see another surge without having to take the same risk as betting the family farm on a random altcoin that's up 100x in less than a year. Okay? This is why I think Ethereum is likely in an overvaluation reaccumulation phase. If you still don't know what I mean, we've showed it before, we'll show it again. Let's take a look at ADA. Okay? It's a good example. Let's go back to January of 2018. Let's stroll back through time. We've showed it before, we're going to show it again. ADA peaked on January 5th, and then it bled back down. And then it had a dead cat bounce on the 13th of January. Well, why was the 13th of January important? Well, you guys know, we're not rookies here. January 13th of 2018 was Ethereum's peak. So, Ethereum was surging up this entire time. My guess is that, generally speaking, people were taking profits out of ADA, out of other coins. Link is another great example. If you look at Link and go back to January of 2018, as we've showed before, it peaked on January 8th. And then it had another little dead cat bounce on the 13th. Okay? And the dead cat bounce for Link from the peak reached, it was a 13 points, about a 14% drop. So peak to dead cat bounce peak on the 13th was about a 14% drop. For ADA, from peak to dead cat bounce on the peak, it was on the Ethereum peak, it was about a 28% drop. Now, despite the fact that ADA was going down during this period, Ethereum was trending up. So Ethereum started trending up on the 31st of December and did not have a corrective candle until the 10th. It was 10 days straight, basically, of just going up. ADA started going back down on the 5th, and then it had the little dead cat bounce on Ethereum's final peak. Okay, so, and the same thing with Link, right? It trended up until the 8th or the 9th, and then it trended down and then did not start that last little move until the 12th and then the 13th as a final sort of dead cat bounce. Link even had another say a week later or so. What I think is going on in this type of environment, when you see these altcoins have these manic moves to the upside, people are likely they're fearful because they've made life-changing money and they don't want to lose it. So when it starts going down, everyone who is buying ADA, all the way, or Link all the way back over here, or was buying ADA at 2 cents before, and then it was at $1.38, they start frantically selling, and then they're like, oh man, like this was the easiest money I've ever made. Let me go somewhere else. And then a lot of people go to Ethereum. They have the same thought. Let me just put it in something safer like Ethereum. We know Ethereum's not safe, but relative to some of these altcoins that are up like 100x, Ethereum being up a modest 20x isn't quite as bad. So what I think is we'll likely continue to see what we've been seeing for the last few weeks. Altcoins there's a decent chance altcoins will likely continue to surge. People will probably take profits. They'll then want to take those profits into something else. Some people will take them into Bitcoin. A lot of people won't. They'll probably consider the ROI, the short-term perspective ROI on Bitcoin not to be worth it, but they'll look at Ethereum, and there it is. And there it is. And my guess is that they'll look at Ethereum and see, you know what? Its Bitcoin valuation is going down. ADA's Bitcoin valuation against Bitcoin has been going up. ADA's valuation against Ethereum is going up. So if we see the ADA valuation of Ethereum continue to go like this, then people that might be selling ADA, they're going to be looking to say, wow, the last time it was at this level, Ethereum had a nice surge right after it, and guess where they're going to go? My guess is Ethereum. So I say this with a lot of care, that I do think Ethereum is in an overvaluation reaccumulation phase. I'm not implying that the price is definitively overvalued. I'm just saying that compared to the regression band that we spent, more or less years in discussing moves, we're nowhere close to it right now, so we can't say that. I mean, the risk of buying Ethereum up here is certainly a lot higher than it was over here. Over here, we're like, okay, well, even if it goes down, it probably wouldn't go too much further down than this. So the risk wasn't that low. The risk up here is a lot higher because if Bitcoin were to correct to, say, the 20-week moving average, which, I mean, again, we're going to grow old waiting for Bitcoin to correct to the 20-week moving average. If Bitcoin were to correct to the 20-week moving average, then we would expect Ethereum to have a correction as well. So it's a risk. You have to figure out if it's worth taking. Okay. Am I buying Ethereum with USD? No. Would I consider buying Ethereum with altcoin manic bubbles? Like, if this one forms? Maybe. Okay? So, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I think people should be cognizant of. A lot of people get discouraged because Ethereum hasn't moved past 2K more. I mean, it's been right around 2K. If you're trading altcoins, you should see this as an opportunity, because once Ethereum starts moving, the rest of the market will likely sit and watch. Okay, so this is an opportunity, I think, that doesn't come around all that often, where we can be this overvalued, and I'm still bullish on Ethereum. But with Bitcoin doing what it's doing, and Ethereum still sitting at less than 2K. The Ethereum Bitcoin valuation bleeding in February on Bitcoin's price discovery in February. We saw the same thing in December. We saw what happened in January. It's the risk we take. There's no free lunch here. But if it ultimately works out, you're not lucky. It was a calculated risk and it paid off. So obviously, if things correct, if Bitcoin has a nice correction and Ethereum corrects back down, then that will be the risk we took, and it maybe won't pay off. But I am fairly bullish on Ethereum, and I think that there's a decent probability, not financial advice, but I think there's a decent probability there's going to be some short-term volatility. You could see Ethereum go up and down 10-20% for all I know. But as long as Bitcoin doesn't have a major correction, I think the catalyst for Ethereum remains, and hopefully we'll see prices higher than 2K in the not so distant future. I hope I was able to kind of elucidate my thoughts in a way that makes sense. I hope it's not too convoluted and that it's understandable. Sometimes my thoughts are not necessarily portrayed in the best way, but I'm trying to get better at it. So hopefully it makes sense. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Remember, we have the premium list altcoin season sale in the description below, so check that out if you guys want the weekly reports, the weekly videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the trading view indicators, the risk dashboard, and more. Check it out before the prices go up. You can lock in the lower rate as long as you do not cancel. That'll wrap it up for the video. Let's see if we can see some altcoin moves. It's a good thing. If altcoins go crazy, we're not talking about Ethereum, altcoins go crazy and Ethereum's sitting still, it's probably a good thing. It's just putting fuel, we're adding fuel to the fire. And it's only a matter of time, in my opinion, that Ethereum will steal the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.